Hello, this is Linda Comeau, and welcome to Constellations interviews for our conference coming up, the North American Systemic Constellations Conference in Virginia Beach this year, October 5th to 8th. We are so looking forward to meeting everyone. And today I'm very excited to introduce you to Michael Bradford. Michael is an amazing, interesting man, and his topic is the ultimate leadership and entrepreneurship, fully embracing authenticity, presence, essence, consciousness, entrainment, energy, and intuition. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
This is going to be very interesting. By the way, our conference theme for the year is Bridging the Divide, Helping the Personal and Collective Soul. And your information, your workshop is in the track of organizational. So this should be very interesting. Tell us a little bit about your workshop, Michael.
Well, for me, everything is connected. So in other words, you have the individual, the company, consciousness, the knowing field. And when I work, it's a combination. It brings in everything. Now, the way I work with constellations is very different. I'm not using people and putting them and having them represent different things. I merge with the field. And when I merge with the field, I set the intention that I'm going to help this person, whatever it is, with whatever the issue is, as best I can. So what my intention is to align with the highest perfection of the individual, the organization, and the process. And when I merge with the field, I bring in the person's higher self. I bring in the knowing field, morphogenetic field. I'm connecting to universal consciousness, the person's ego, personality, soul, guides, teachers, Akashic records, you name it. And I'm merging with all of that myself. Now, in the workshop, I'll be working with individuals. However, through entrainment, everyone in the room will also be in the field, and they'll be picking up and opening up to new levels of consciousness. So actually, everyone in the room will be gaining from everyone's work, even though they may not be, as with some of the constellations, where they're taking a part and representing a part of the issue. My experience is when I've done 2-day workshops or when I've done longer term work, that in the beginning, people kind of look at me and scratch their head, wondering what's going on, but then they start feeling, seeing exactly what I'm seeing and feeling. So it's actually opening up, it will open up the consciousness of the people that are attending my talk and workshop. My talk is going to be very short. So I may talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to ask who wants to work. And then what I'll do is work with that person in front of the room with everybody else tuning in. I will share what I'm getting, and I'll be open to other people in the room also sharing what they're getting. Normally, when I'm working with an individual, it may be just a matter of seconds for me to tune in to what the core level issue is. In other words, with many people, they're working through the layer of the onion.
Right.
I go directly to the core of the onion, almost instantaneously. Some of the clients that I've worked with, one person, and this is a health issue, they had a life-threatening allergy for 55 years. 34 seconds after I worked with them, the allergy was gone, completely, totally, forever.
Wow.
There's another individual I worked with who was a head trainer for an international organization. And that organization invited me to come in as a guest speaker. I flew down there, and this was a international organization that was so large they had their own training department. And they said, Michael, you're not allowed to touch anyone. You're not allowed to work with anyone. Just give your talk. And I started the talk, and 10 minutes into the talk, 5 minutes into the talk, I said, I can't do this because you have no concept of what I'm talking about. You have to see my work in order to understand it. And my work bridges shamanism, intuitiveness, psychic. All of these things are incorporated in the work that I do. I've worked with the psychic surgeons from the Philippines, Native American medicine people, Peruvian shamans, Eskimo shamans, the Maoris. I've spent 20 years overseas traveling with all these people, learning and experiencing all of this, including working with the psychic surgeons from the Philippines. So all of this knowledge, all these abilities, all these connections are coming through to help. And when I started giving my talk and they said, you can't touch anyone, I went, okay. And then about 5 minutes in, I said, I can't do this. There's no way for you to understand what I'm talking about. And what happened is one of the guys from the back of the room, who was the head trainer in his late 30s, he finally stood up and said, I don't know what you got, but I want it. And it was so funny because I thought they were going to throw us both out. And he was the head trainer and I'm just a speaker. And I waited to see what would happen. I invited him to the front of the room and I walked towards the back of the room. Normally I stay right with the person, but in this case, I walked to the back of the room and I said, how may I serve you? And the man said to me, he said, Michael, I've been in counseling and therapy for 13 years working on my mother issues and I can't crack it. Now here's the head trainer. 13 years in counseling and therapy. He says, Michael, I can't crack it. And I just looked at him, I shrugged my shoulder. I said, it's easy. The issue is not your mother, it's your father. I said, did your father ever tell you he loved you and respected you? Emotional explosion. The guy totally changed. His energy totally shifted. He grew a couple of inches taller. And that's all he needed. And then I worked with him more on integrating it. But there is no model that I've been able to find for the work that I do. So it's very, very unique. There was a gentleman, used to work for Mount Hood Community College, the State of Oregon Small Business Development Center, and they gave me a call. And this is going back in 1992. And they said, Michael, we've tried everything. We've hired this new man. He's got all the qualifications. We're ready to fire him. No one can get him turned around. And he said, the man said, Michael, will you call the man? So I did. We spent about 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone. And he was an accountant, great guy, but his issue was that he couldn't close any of the accounts. He couldn't get people to sign up. Now, here's the kicker. They were getting professional business consulting for $6 an hour, and he couldn't sell it.
Wow.
And I said, okay, let's play a game. Let's role play. So I said, you be the salesman. Let me say, no, I was the salesman. You be the client, and you raise the objective. So I said, Mr. Jones, my name's so-and-so from Mount Hood Community College Small Business Development Center. We've got this great program for you. And he says, well, I don't have the time. And I said, well, Mr. Jones, that's exactly what this is about, is getting more time for you. So formulating the answers to match the resistance. I spent 15, 20 minutes on the phone with him, got off the phone, and I got a call 2 weeks later from the head of the organization saying, what'd you do to the guy? I'm sitting here, oh my God, I screwed up. And what was funny is he said, this guy turned around from being the worst. His classes are bigger than yours now, Michael. He said, you did such a good job with that person. But for me, all it is tuning in to that individual and saying, okay, what does this person need? What's the missing piece? So rather than working through the layer of the onion, I'm going directly, my guides, teachers, whatever you want to call it, the gift that I've been given is to get rid of the burnt stuff at the bottom of the pot, to get rid of whatever is stuck. And and the other gift is, it's not about time, it's about precision. So what's happening is just going directly to what is that single issue, the single thing that when you shift that, everything else transforms. And the other thing, which the people coming to the Constellation conference will understand, I'm not working on third dimensional reality. I'm working on higher levels of consciousness. I'm tuning in to the field. I'm tuning in to the field and saying, okay, what does this person want? What's the single most important thing that'll help this individual or this organization? Because I also read an organization exactly the way I would read an individual.
Oh, that's interesting. I would like to know more about that.
Okay, let me give you an example. I was invited to a steel company in Malaysia. They liked the way I talked and they invited me in. They were having some problems. I don't know diddly squat about steel.
Right.
But I listened to them and I listened to their problems and I said, I got the answer for you. And they looked at me and said, well, we don't have the answers and we've been doing this all of our lives for years and years. I said, form an alliance, because with steel, it is local, it is regional. It is not, you can't ship steel 1,000 miles, it's too heavy. So I said, form an alliance with other steel companies that are doing similar to you in other parts of the world where they're not in competition with you. And they had their answer, to set up a support system where each of those companies are working together as a team to solve problems, because they're not in competition with each other. They can't. The shipping cost would eat them alive. I'll give you another example. I was working with a software company, and the guy said, Michael, we've got a good product, but we're only at 2.4 million in sales, and we're at break even. We're having trouble. Can you come in? So I went in and I just took a walk around the company, spent about 10, 15 minutes walking around, just said hi to a couple of people, but I just opened up to the field. I asked my intuition, I asked my guidance, and I came back and I said to the guy, I said, you should be doing 4 million a year. And he almost dropped over. He said, Michael, that's exactly the numbers we've come up with. Where did you get those numbers? And I said, I got good guidance. I said, no problem. And he finally said to me, he said, what do we need to do to change? And I said to him, you don't need to change anything except your management style. So what was going on, he was passive aggressive. And the guy under him was passive aggressive. Now, can you imagine, and then my guides came through, my intuition came through and said that we can turn around the company in 3 to 6 months. Now, 2.4 taken away, that's the break even. 4 million, 1.6 million in sheer profits is what he would have had he done this.
Wow.
And he decided not to. And I could give you company after company after company. I was invited into a boardroom meeting in London. The guy had a security company. And he said, Michael, just sit there and be quiet. Well, that's impossible for me. So I went into the board meeting. And there were about, over a dozen people, I would say 14, 16 people there. And I'm sitting back, never met anyone. I knew the owner socially. But he invited me to come into the board meeting. I was just sitting there. And as I'm sitting there, they're talking about this new marketing woman they hired. And, she's going to turn the company around. She's going to turn it. I turned around to them. I said, what are you doing? And they said, what do you mean, what are we doing? I said, she's only going to stay 90 days. She's not going to work out. And they looked at me and said, Michael, you're absolutely nuts. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, 90 days later, they called me up and they said, Michael, we should have listened to you and we should have fired her. If we had kept her one more day, we would have been in deep trouble with legal problems.
Wow.
So not only can I see what an individual needs to help them to develop, but I can tune into what the organization needs, what's challenging the team, where the opportunities are. I've also worked with formulation where people are coming up with a formula or a design, and I can tune into the field and the field will tell me yes or no. And I can also get a percentage on what level of effectiveness, efficiency it is. So it works for individuals, it works for organizations, and I look at an organization exactly the same way I would look at an individual. I can measure the strength of the energy field. I can pinpoint exactly where the problem is, who the problem is, what the perception is that's the problem, and also where the opportunities are. So in my presentation, it's all going to be working with people. Whenever I do any work in workshops, it's all about, okay, I'm not going to sit here and give you a lot of theory. Forget the theory. Let's take it action. Let's move the energy. Let's get you answers, solutions, quickly, precisely. And when the information comes through, everyone in the room gets it. Now, again, with the woman that was the marketing director, they didn't get it, but they got it later. But if it's people that are sensitive to this type of energy, they'll be able to pick it up. And again, the benefit is by them being present in my energy field through entrainment, and my field is so strong. When I start doing this work, I totally transform. My field opens up even stronger. These people will be in my field. I will be interacting with their field, and their field will go, aha, I know how to do this now. So the people will be learning through watching and experiencing. It is an experiential workshop. We will, after things happen, I will answer questions. I will explain what I understand of what's happening. However, I have not seen any model for what I'm doing in the world.
So it's quite the combination. Oh, sorry to interrupt. It's quite the combination.
It is a combination. It is constellation work, but the constellation is being set up through intention, through desire. It's helping a person to become authentic. I've worked with over 30,000 clients all over the world. I've worked with some of the richest entrepreneurs in the world. One person owned over 36 corporations, and he had less than a 30% success rate hiring CEOs. He hired me. I flew in. Now, here's the interesting part. I never met the people. I never saw a resume, never knew their full name, never saw a picture of the person. And we're having an intelligent conversation about who to hire for CEOs of his corporation.
Wow.
Plus, I was helping him strategize on how to present the package to these people so that they would be staying with the company longer.
Yes, a big issue for organizations, keeping their talent, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is a person may be the best person in the world, but it may not be the right person for that organization. So I can actually look, another area that I've worked in is helping HR when they're going to hire someone, is looking at, okay, let's say they bring it down to 5 people, which person is most aligned with that organization's intention? Forget about what they say. See, all of the testing and all of this stuff works on the ego personality level. That's not the level I'm working on. I'm looking at the soul level. I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at the alignment and how the energy interacts and connects.
Right.
So it is so much fun. I love to play at this level. And as you can tell, I really love it. I really love it.
It really shows, Michael. It really does show. Well, thank you very much for this time. I appreciate all the work here that we're going to go through. We're around 20 minutes or so on since we started. I don't want to make the videos too long to make sure everybody.
Yeah, I love talking about this work and helping people.
So do I. Absolutely, absolutely. And but I really look forward to meeting you at the conference. It's so exciting. It's quite the energy there at the conference too. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you at the conference. And
thank
to
you
our audience.
And thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you. Please give me a call if you have any questions.
Yeah. And for our members of our audience, you can find more information about Michael's workshop at our website, nasconstellations.org. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you soon, October 5th to 8th in Virginia Beach. Bye for now.
Thank you.